Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome all to today's reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter number 10. Verse number 168, we will continue from Mukam Karoti Vachalam, Pangum Langhayate Girim, Yat Kripa Tamam Vande, Shri Gurum Deen Tarinam, Paramananda Madhamam, Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram, Hari Om Tat Sat. व्याप्य व्यापक भावे जीव ब्रह्मे जानी जीव व्याप्य ब्रह्म व्यापक शास्त्रेते वाखानी. Brahmananda Bharati continued, the living entity is localized, whereas the Supreme Brahman is all-pervading. That is the verdict of the revealed scriptures, purported by His Divine Grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Brahmananda Bharati drew Sarvam Bhattacharya's attention because he wanted him to judge the argument. He then stated that Brahman, the Supreme Lord, is all-pervading. This is confirmed by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad-Gita 13.3. Kshetra Jnanam Chapi Mam Vidhi Sarva Kshetreshu Bharata Kshetra Kshetra Janayor Jnanam Yat Taj Jnanam Matam Mama. O sign of Bharata, you should understand that I am also the knower in all bodies. And to understand this body and its knower is called knowledge. That is my opinion. The Supreme Personality of Godhead in His Paramatma feature is expanded everywhere. The Brahma Samhita says, Andanantara stha paramanu chayantara sthanam stham. By virtue of His all-pervasive nature, the Supreme Lord is within the universe as well as within all elements of the universe. He is even within the atom. In this way, the Supreme Lord Govinda is all-pervasive. I repeat, Andanantara stha parmanu chayantara stham. By virtue of His all-pervasive nature, the Supreme Lord is within the universe as well as within all the elements of the universe. He is even within the atom. In this way, the Supreme Lord Govinda is all-pervasive. On the other hand, the living entities are very, very small. It is said that the living entity is 1/10,000th of the tip of a hair. Therefore, the living entity is localized. Living entities rest on the Brahman effulgence, the bodily rays of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Verse 169, Charma Guchana Kaila Amare Shodhana Donhara Vyapya Vyapakatve Eita Karana. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu purified me by taking away my dear skin. This is proof that He is all-pervasive and all-powerful and that I am all subordinate to Him. Brahmananda Bharati herein asserts that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Brahman and that He is the subordinate Brahman. This is confirmed in the Vedas. Nityu Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is Brahman or Parabrahman, the chief of all living entities. Both the Supreme Brahman or the Personality of Godhead and the living entities are persons, but the Supreme Brahman is the predominator, whereas the living entities are predominated. Verse 170, Suvarna Varno Hemango Varangash Chandanang Gadi Sannyasa Krich Chamaha Shanto Nishtha Shanti Parayanaha. His bodily hue is golden and his whole body is like molten gold. Every part of his body is very beautifully constructed and smeared with sandalwood pulp. Accepting the renounced order, the Lord is always equipoised. He is firmly fixed in his mission of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, and he is firmly situated in his dualistic conclusion and in his peace. Purport, this is a quote from Mahabharat's Vishnu Sahasranam Stotra. Verse 171, Aisaba Namera Inha Haya Nijaspada Chandan Nakata Prasad Dora Shri Bhuje Angada. All the symptoms mentioned in the verse from the Vishnu Sahasranam Stotra are visible in the body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. His arms are decorated with the sandalwood pulp and the thread received from the Sri Jagannātha deity, and these are his ornamental bangles. Verse 172. Bhattacharya kahe Bharati dekhi tomar jaya, Prabhu kahe ye kaha say satyahaya. After hearing this, Sarvam Bhattacharya rendered his judgment, saying, Brahmananda Bharati, I see you are victorious. Purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately said, I accept whatever Brahmananda Bharati has said. It is quite all right with me. Verse 173. Guru Shishya Nyaya Satya Shishyera Parajay, Bharati kahe eho nahe anya hetu haya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thus posed himself as a disciple and accepted Brahmananda Bharati as a spiritual master. He then said, the disciple is certainly defeated in an argument with the spiritual master. Purport. Brahmananda Bharati immediately countered these words, saying, this is not the cause of your defeat, there is another cause. Verse 174. Bhakta thani har tumi e tomar swabhav ar ek shuna tumi apna prabhav. It is your natural characteristic to accept defeat at the hands of your devotee. There is also another glory of yours which I ask you to hear attentively. Verse 175. Ajanma karinu muni nirakar dhyana tuma dekhi Krishna haila mor vidyaman. I have been meditating on the impersonal Brahman since my birth, but since I have seen you, I have fully experienced Krishna. Purport. Brahmananda Bharati admitted that there is an argument between the spiritual master and the disciple. The spiritual master is naturally victorious, although the disciple may put forward a strong argument. In other words, it is customary that the words of the spiritual master are more worshipable than the words of a disciple. Under the circumstances, since Brahmananda Bharati was in the position of a spiritual master, he emerged victorious over Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who considered himself Brahmananda Bharati's disciple. However, Brahmananda Bharati reversed the argument and took the position of a devotee, stating that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. This means that the Lord was voluntarily defeated out of affection for his devotee. He was defeated voluntarily because no one can defeat the Supreme Lord. Concerning this, the words of Bhishma in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.9.37 are important. Swanigamam apahaya mat pratijanam ritam adhikartum avpluto rathastha rita ratha charano abhayach chaladgur harir ivahantum ibham gatotariyaha. Fulfilling my desires and sacrificing his own promise, he got down from the chariot, took up its wheel and ran toward me hurriedly. Just as a lion goes to kill an elephant, he even dropped his outer garment on the way. Krishna promised not to fight in the battle of Kurukshetra, but Bhishma, in order to break Krishna's promise, attacked Arjuna in such a vigorous way that Krishna was obliged to take up a chariot wheel and attack Bhishma. The Lord did this to show that his devotee was being maintained at the sacrifice of his own promise. Brahmananda Bharati said, since the beginning of my life, I was attached to impersonal Brahman realization, but as soon as I saw you, I became very much attached to the personality of Godhead Krishna. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Lord Krishna himself, and thus Brahmananda Bharati became his devotee. Verse 176. Krishna naam sphure mukhe mane netra Krishna, tomake tadrupa dekhi hridaya satrishna. Brahmananda Bharati continued, since I have seen you, I have been feeling Lord Krishna's presence in my mind, I have been seeing him before my eyes, and I want to chant the holy name of the Lord Krishna. Over and above this, within my heart, I consider you to be Krishna, and I am therefore very eager to serve you. Verse 177. Viromangal kaila yaiche das apanar iha dekhi say dasha haila amar. Bilmangal Thakur abandoned his impersonal realization for the realization of the personality of Godhead. I now see that my condition is similar to his, for it has already changed. Purport. In his early life, Bilmangal Thakur was an impersonalistic monist, and he used to meditate upon the impersonal Brahman effulgence. Later, he became a devotee of Lord Krishna, and his explanation for this change is given in a verse, text 178, that is quoted in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Sometimes a devotee gradually comes to the stage of Bhagwan realization of the Supreme Person after having attained the lower stages of realization, impersonal Brahman realization and localized Paramatma realization. The condition of such a devotee is described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita by Prabodhananda Saraswati. Kaivalyam Narakayate Tridasha Pur Akash Pushpayate Durdantendriya Kala Sarpatali Prokhat Damstrayate Vishwam Purna Sukhayate Vidhi Mahendra Dishcha Ki Jayate Yat Karunya Kataksh Vaibhav Vatam Tam Gauram Evstumaha. Kaivalya oneness in the effulgence of Brahman appears hellish to the devotee. The heavenly planets, the abodes of the demigods, appear to a devotee like phantasmagorias. The yogis meditate for sense control, but the devotee the sense appears like serpents with broken teeth. The devotee doesn't have to control his senses, for his senses are already engaged in the Lord's service. Consequently, there is no possibility that the senses will act like serpents. In the material condition, the senses are as strong as poisonous snakes, but when the senses are engaged in the Lord's service, they are like poisonous snakes with their fangs removed, and so they are no longer dangerous. The entire world is a replica of Vaikuntha for the devotee because he has no anxiety. He sees that everything belongs to Krishna, and he does not want to enjoy anything for himself. He does not even aspire for the position of Lord Brahma or Indra. He simply wants to engage everything in the service of Lord, therefore he has no problem. He stands in his original constitutional position. All this is possible when one receives Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's merciful glance. In the Chaitanya Chandramrita, there are many more verses illustrating the same principle. Dik kurvanti cha brahma yoga vidushas tam gaura chandram namaha. This is verse 6. Chaitanya Chandramrita. And now it's the 19th one. Tavad Brahma Katha Vimukta Padavi Tavan Nandikti Bhavet Tavach Chapi Vishrini Khalavatam Ayate Naloka Vedasthitihi Tavach Shastra Vidam Mitaha Kala Kalo Nana Bahir Vartamasu Shri Chaitanya Padambuja Priya Jana Yavannati Gocharaha. Now it's verse 760 from the Chaitanya Chandramrita. Gaurash Joraha Sakalam Ahart Ko Api Me Tivra Viryaha. A discussion of the impersonal Brahman is not very palatable to a devotee. The so-called regulations of the Shastras also appear null and void to him. There are many people who argue over the Shastras, but for the devotee, such discussions are but tumultuous roaring. By the influence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all these problems disappear. Verse 178. Advaita Vithi Pathikair Upasayaha Swananda Simhasana Labda Dikshaha Shathena Kenapi Vayam Hathena Dasi Krita Gopa Madhu Vitena. Brahmanand Bharati concluded, although I was worshipped by those on the path of monism and initiated into self-realization through the yoga system, I have nonetheless been forcibly turned into a maidservant by some cunning boy who is always joking with the gopis. Purport: this is a verse written by Bilumangal Thakur. It is quoted in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 3.1.44. Verse 179. Prabhu kahe Krishna tomar Garha Premhaya Yaha Netra Pade Taha Shri Krishna Surya. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, you have a deep ecstatic love for Krishna, therefore wherever you turn your eyes, you simply heighten your Krishna consciousness. Verse 180. Bhattacharya kahe Donhar Susatya Vachan Age Yadi Krishna Dena Sakshat Darshana. Sarvam Bhattacharya said, the statements of both of you are correct. Krishna gives direct audience through his mercy. Verse 181. Prema vina kabhu nahe tanra sakshatkar inhar kripate haya darshana inhar. Without having ecstatic love for Krishna, one cannot see him directly. Therefore, through the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Brahmanand Bharati has acquired direct vision of the Lord. Purport: Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, you are Brahmanand Bharati, an advanced devotee who ecstatically loves the Supreme Lord. Therefore, you see Krishna everywhere, and there is no doubt about it. Sarvam Bhattacharya was a mediator between Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Brahmanand Bharati, and his judgment was that an advanced devotee like Brahmanand Bharati was seeing Krishna by Krishna's mercy. Krishna directly presents himself before the vision of an advanced devotee. Since Ramanand Bharati was an advanced devotee, he saw Krishna in the person of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In the words of Brahma Samhita 5.38, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santaha Sadaiva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Guna Swarupam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship the primeval Lord Govinda, who is always seen by the devotee whose eyes are anointed with the pulp of love. He is seen in his eternal form of Shama Sundar, situated within the heart of the devotee. Verse number 182. Prabhu kahe Vishnu Vishnu ki kaha sarvbhaum ati stuti haya e nindar lakshan. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Sarvam Bhattacharya, what are you saying, Lord Vishnu, save me? Such glorification is simply another form of blasphemy. Purpose: Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a little embarrassed by the Bhattacharya's statement. Therefore, he uttered the name Vishnu to save himself. The Lord herein confirms that if one is overestimated, glorification is just another form of blasphemy. In this way, he protests this so-called offensive statement. Verse 183. Eta bali Bharatire Lalena Nijavas Aila Bharti Gosani Prabhura Nikate Rahila. After saying this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took Ramanand Bharti with him to his residence. From that time on, Ramanand Bharti remained with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Verse 184. Ram Bhadracharya Ar Bhagwan Acharya Prabhu Pade Rahilya Dune Chadi Sarvakarya. Later, Ram Bhadra Acharya and Bhagwan Acharya joined them, and giving up all of the responsibilities remained under Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's shelter. Verse number 185. Kashishwara Gosani Aila Aradine Samman Kariya Prabhu Rakhila Nijsthane. The next day, Kashishwara Gosani also came and remained with Mahaprabhu, who received him with great respect. Verse 186. प्रभु कहे लेना कर न ईश्वर दर्शन आगे लोक भीड़ा सब करी निवारण. Kashishwar used to usher Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu into the Jagannātha temple. He would precede the Lord into the crowd and keep the people from touching him. Verse 187. Yat nada nadi yaiche samudre milaya aiche Mahaprabhura bhakta yahan taha haya. As all the rivers flow into the sea, all the devotees throughout the country finally came to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's shelter. Verse 188. Sabe asi milila prabhura Shri Sacharane Prabhu kripa kari sabaye rakhila nijasthane. Since all the devotees came to him for shelter, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed them all mercy and kept them under his protection. Verse 189. Aita kahila prabhura Vaishnav milan Iha ye shune paye Chaitanya Charan. Thus I have described the meeting of all the Vaishnavas with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Whoever hears this description ultimately attains shelter at his lotus feet. Verse 190. Shri Rupa Raghunath Pate Yar Asha Chaitanya Charitamrit Kahe Krishnadasa. Praying at the lotus feet of Shri Rupa and Shri Raghunath, I always desiring the mercy. I, Krishnadas, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrit following in their footsteps. Purport. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purpose to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrit Madhya Lila, 10th chapter, describing the Lord's meeting the Vaishnavas upon his return to Jagannātha Purī from South India. So next time we will continue with the chapter 11 of the Madhya Lila. We will begin it. That is the Beda Kirtan pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Thank you all for joining. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami ki jai. I hope you all had wonderful Diwali and Govardhan Puja celebrations and have enjoyed your Bhai Dooj as well today.